We don't get what we earn in life. We don't even get what we deserve in life. We get what we tolerate. We get what we tolerate. And what you tolerate in your world, in any area of your world, whether it's your marketing, your money, your business, your marriage, your relationship with your children, your grandchildren, your fitness, your health, your spirituality, any area of your life, what you tolerate is what you'll get more of. The difference between winners and losers, the difference between champions and chumps, the difference between badasses and bootlickers, standards. We get what we tolerate, and what you tolerate, you get more of. I've been teaching my athletes for 31 years in the sport of hockey. I've been teaching my employees. I've been teaching my consulting clients. I've been teaching the concept for 3 decades that we get what we tolerate. We are our standards. We are our standards. We're not our dreams. You're not your highest goals. You're not your mission, not your dreams, your goals. None of that stuff. We are our lowest standards. And what our standards are, what we tolerate, we'll always get more of that. A great example is any area of your life that you're struggling in. Let's say you're struggling in your marriage. You want a marriage that's on fire, but you feel that you're disconnected from your best friend's secret weapon queen. What you need to do is you need to raise your standards. You're tolerating things in your marriage that make your marriage disconnected. Period. You are your standards in terms of any area of our lives. Person's fat, they eating the wrong foods, overweight, unfit, unhealthy, low standards. Same thing for the businessman and the entrepreneur who can't get their marketing done. We're all in the marketing business, but you don't spend any time on your marketing. You don't have the discipline to get up and write. You don't have the discipline to get up and work on the marketing of your company each and every morning. That's because of your standards. You're willing to tolerate. You're willing to tolerate earning 5 figures instead of 6. You're willing to tolerate earning 6 figures instead of 7. You're willing to tolerate earning 7 figures instead of a top 1% of 1%, 8 figures. We are our standards. And the difference between winners and losers, kings and bootlickers, is our standards. And the secret to changing and raising any standard is, like the great Tony Robbins says, you need to move from should to must. When a man moves from a mindset of should, well, I should date my wife, I should schedule date night once a week, to a I must date my wife. I must have a weekly date night. I must schedule time with my queen. That's where you no longer tolerate mediocrity in your marriage. That's what you're doing, is essentially raising your standards. You're raising your standards for what you'll tolerate. You're moving from a should to a must. Same thing in your fitness in areas. You're overweight, you're unfit, you're tired, you're fatigued. It's about making that a priority and moving from I should walk in the morning, I should drink a gallon of water a day, I should stop drinking alcohol, I should eat more proteins and vegetables, and making that become a must. I must do 30 minutes of road work every day. I must drink water every morning. I must turn my back and break up with alcohol. I must. As soon as you move from a should to a must, like Tony says, you're raising your standards, and when you raise your standards, you completely transform your life. Same thing with technology addiction. Scrolling. Wake up, check your phone, play defense, play not to win, scroll, get depressed, scroll, get anxious, scroll, fight or flight, scroll some more, dopamine hit, feel a little better, scroll some more, dopamine hit, feel a little better, scroll, feel a little better, scroll, get depressed, feel a little bit better, scroll, get anxious, scroll some more, dopamine hit. Look up and the first 40 minutes of your day are gone. You wonder why you've got manufactured mental health issues. You wonder why you feel depressed, why you feel anxious, why you have no peace of mind, why you have no balance in your life. Scroll, depressed, high, low. It's what you're tolerating in your life. You're tolerating getting up and checking your phone. You're tolerating playing defense. You're tolerating playing not to win, instead of demanding from yourself that you're going to get up and you're going to work on your agenda. Demanding from yourself that the first hour of the day belongs to you. Demanding from yourself that you're not going to touch your cell phone for the first 2, 3, 4 hours of the day. Demanding that you're going to go all in, burn the boats, and take the island this year. So what you're tolerating is your addiction to your cell phone. You're tolerating the fact that you're a cell phone junkie. And the second that goes from, you know what, I should own the first hour of my day. I should win the first 60 minutes of the day. I should keep my cell phone and my iPad and my laptop out of the bedroom. I should spend less time on my phone. When that moves from a should to a must, now we're in business. I must own the first hour of the day. I must write first thing in the morning. I must lock away my phone at 6 o'clock at night. I must never, ever, ever touch my phone for the first 2 hours of every day. I must no longer tolerate my cell phone addiction. Moving from a should to a must. We are what we tolerate. Our life is our standards. The difference between a winner and a loser, a champion and a chump, a badass and a bootlicker is what you tolerate. If you're running a business with employees and you tolerate the use of cell phones, if you tolerate an employee making $10 an hour, $20 an hour, $40 an hour, $50 an hour, if you tolerate cell phones in your business that are used for everything and anything but business, then your standards are destroying the profitability in your company. In other words, you might as well have that employee, that staff member, every hour reach into the till, reach into your cash register, reach into your bank account and take out $15 cash and shove it in their pocket. Take out $20 bill and shove it in their pocket. Take out a $50 bill and shove it in their pocket. Every single hour. Energy theft, time theft, money theft. And whose fault is that? Well, that's your fault. It was my fault when I ran McLean Insurance and I had 23 employees and I was paying these employees anywhere from $15 to $75 an hour depending upon their value. And I tried to tolerate. I tolerated cell phones. Well, you know, in case my kid calls, I need to have my cell phone in my purse. Don't worry, Michael, I'm not going to be checking it. Don't worry, Michael, it's only there for emergencies. I'm just gonna keep it here on airplane mode. It's gonna be, the sound's turned off. I'm gonna focus on my job. Don't worry about it. It's not a distraction for me. Don't worry about it. I'm focused on my job. Bullshit. 23 people distracted. 23 people on their toys and gadgets. 23 people texting during the workday. 23 people phoning their kids. 23 people shopping on Amazon. 23 people participating in anti-social media, politics, the news, everything and anything but doing their job. Whose fault was that? Whose fault was it that 23 people were stealing from Michael McLean? Whose fault was it that 23 people were stealing time and energy and focus from Michael McLean and McLean Insurance? Well, man in the mirror, it was my fault because I tolerated it. I tolerated them walking in with their cell phones, putting them on their desk, putting them in their drawer, selling me the story that, well, they're not going to be distracted, and sitting there and watching an employee that's making $20 an hour, $30 an hour, $70 an hour be distracted by constant and never-ending communication. Whose fault was that? Michael McLean's, because I tolerated. I was my standards. When my insurance agency lacked profitability because I had 23 zombies, whose fault is that? That's mine because I tolerated that. And my business changed the day that I bought 23 lockers, steel lockers. My life and my business changed the day that I went from a should to a must. Well, I should take those cell phones away. I should talk to the staff about, leaving their cell phones in the car. I should talk to the staff about turning off their phones and leaving them upstairs in the safe. I should. Until the day I had the mental balls to actually man up and claim my profitability, to actually demand that somebody making $20 an hour, $50 an hour, $75 an hour be actually focused on their job, to be actually focused on the task at hand, and to stop robbing me blind with distraction and noise and interruptions. Nothing changed. The day I put up those lockers and had everybody sign a one-page contract that said cell phones are no longer tolerated inside the building for any reason whatsoever. If your child has an emergency at school, we have 16 phone lines. If your husband has to get a hold of you or your spouse has to get a hold of you for emergencies, we have 3 receptionists and 16 phone lines. We don't need the gadgets. I made all 23 people, I put the contract in front of them. My COO, Sandra Challenger, put the contract in front of them. Sign it or don't sign it. I don't care. But you're no longer working here part-time. You're no longer going to sit here and text and email and scroll and check and shop and you name it, when I'm paying you to focus on the job at hand. We had 23 signatures within 1 hour. All 23 employees signed the cell phone agreement that they would turn in their cell phone every single day during working hours. 23 people walked upstairs in the office. They handed over 23 cell phones every day at 8:30 a.m. They retrieved them for their 1 hour lunch, and then they would return and hand in their cell phone at 1 o'clock, and they would retrieve their cell phone at the end of the day at 5 p.m. Our productivity 30x'd instantly. I didn't have to spend another dime. I didn't have to do any more marketing. All I did was have to clean up the environment. I had to go from a should to a must. Well, I should get rid of those cell phones. It's like the employees are stealing from me. I should have a cell phone policy because my payroll is over $1 million a year, but I don't feel that most people are focused on their job. Well, no shit, Michael. Wake the fuck up. Take the toys away. Take the toys away. You're not running a halfway house. You're not running a soup kitchen. You're not running a non-profit. You're not here to entertain. You're here to make maximum profit. So I manned up and I took the cell phones away, and our profitability 30 times. 30 times. Gee, imagine that when somebody doesn't have 300, 400 interruptions in their day. The average person is now sleeping with their cell phone. The average Joe is now checking their phone over 1,000 times a day. There's 1,000 altogether emails, texts, messages, app notifications. How in the world can anybody get anything done when you're interrupted 300 times, 500 times, 800 times, 1,000 times per day? Do you know that studies show that when one of your employees or yourself, when you're interrupted, let's say you're sitting down to read a book and you're interrupted by a bing, a text, or you're walking and you're interrupted, bing, by an email, or you're trying to meditate or have some solitude and bing, you're interrupted by a message. On and on, whatever it is, you're trying to write copy in the morning, you're trying to do your marketing, bing, you're interrupted by social media or what creepy Joe is doing, whatever it is. It takes on average for Joe average, 12 minutes to refocus. That's a study that was done years ago. I bet you now it takes more than 12 minutes. So if you and your employees are being interrupted every 30 seconds, every 45 seconds, every minute of the day, and it takes 12 minutes to recover mentally, it takes 12 minutes to get back to writing, it takes 12 minutes to get back to focusing on the job, is it any wonder you're not getting your marketing done? Is it any wonder that you're depressed and you're anxious? Is it any wonder that you have zero peace of mind? Is it any wonder at 5 o'clock at night you look and you say, man, where did the day go? Where did the day go? The day went into those 400, 500, 700, 1,000 interruptions. So I just raised my standards. I went from a should to a must, and I took the cell phones and gadgets away. 30 times increase in profitability. Did the same thing with my championship hockey club. No matter what we did for 5 years that I coached this team, the first 4 years before our championship, good morning, in the fifth season, is, we would lose in game 7 by 1 goal. We would lose in a game 7 by 2 goals. So 10,000 hours of work, thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of work every year in the gym, practicing, watching video, you name it. And you win or lose by 1 or 2 goals. You lose by 1 or 2 goals. Every year, sick to my stomach, the fact that we would come up short by 1 or 2 goals. The difference between us and a 5-time championship team that we lost to each and every year was 1 or 2 goals. You know how hard that is to live with? You know how sick to your stomach that should make you when somebody's better than you financially, or they beat you in sales by a few $100s, or they beat you by 1 or 2 goals over the course of a season. That's what I was living in the hockey business. So I had the same weakness as I had in the insurance business. I said, well, my student athletes, they're 17 years old, they're 20 years old, they're students, They need their cell phones. I'm like the tomato can parent in 2023. Well, my 10-year-old needs a phone because everybody has one. My 14-year-old, I'm going to pay for his phone because everybody has one. Everybody needs one. Everybody's unhappy, broke, depressed, and lost as well, buddy. So I was that soft as shit guy. I was like, well, you know, we have lockers, and as long as they turn them off during practice and during games, the guys are pretty good about it, you know. I haven't seen anybody on their phone between periods. I haven't seen anybody on their phone before games or practices. I think it's pretty good. That's called burying yourself in your own BS. And that's what I was doing. How the hell could I build a team culture when I had 23 disconnected athletes? 23 players that were mentally somewhere else. And mentally somewhere else is, instead of spending time with your teammate, instead of building a bond with the person who you're going to be going to battle with in that sport, that person you're going to be chasing a Barclay Cup with, no, we're texting and messaging a girlfriend, or we're checking out ESPN for the latest score, or they're checking their fantasy football, or they're scrolling porn or videos. So after losing for 4 years, after licking my wounds for 4 years and spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, after investing tens of thousands of hours chasing an elusive Barclay Cup, I finally used the principle of accurate thinking, Napoleon Hill's accurate thinking, and I saw things as they really were. Not as they should be, not as even as I wish they were. Well, the guys are pretty good. I don't have to take away the phones. And I looked in the mirror and I said, this is stacking the deck. Taking these gadgets away from these players when they're at the arena practicing, when they're in the weight room, when we're competing against ferocious competitors. This is like an unfair advantage. Taking the cell phones away is like putting another player on the ice. It's like tilting the ice in our favor. It's like tilting the ice in our favor. It's like having another player on the field when you're out there on defense. It's like having another player on the court when you're playing offense. Literally stacking the deck and giving yourself an unfair advantage. There's so many ways that we can stack the deck in today's world, but I have never found one more powerful than getting the people, your players, your employees, whoever it is, yourself included, focused on the task at hand. So what did I do? I manned up in our championship year. I put in 23 lockers, just like I did at my insurance agency, and I took away every phone. Every athlete's phone was locked away in the locker, or better yet, left locked in the trunk of the car. No longer was I willing to tolerate a player walking into the stadium or the arena and having their cell phone on their person, period. I wasn't willing to tolerate, oh, it's on vibrate, or it's on silent, or it's on airplane, none of that. It's not allowed in the building. Well, what happened? We went from losing in the finals and semifinals by a goal or 2 goals to the most focused team in the entire league. Our guys were on a mission, a physical and mental mission. And we stacked the deck in our favor. We gave ourselves an unfair advantage because when my guys were at the rink practicing for 3 hours, they were 100% present. When they were in the weight room, they were 100% present. When they were playing ping pong and eating pizza in the social room, they were 100% present. When they were traveling on the bus, they were 100% present. In between periods, during games, 3, 4, 5 hours, mentally present and focused on the job at hand. We had concentration on our side. We stacked the deck with concentration. all these other teams, players checking their messages before the game, phoning the parent, talking to the agent, all the stuff that went on during practices, games, even during intermissions. It's like their attention was everywhere but at the task at hand. Not us. The Perth Blue Wings were focused on one thing: winning. When I would walk in the locker room and do a short video session or talk about the next strategy or what we want to do this period, I had 23 focused athletes because their minds weren't somewhere else. How did we win a Barclay Cup in 2019 when people said it was next to impossible? Next to impossible for a small community of 6,000 people to win a Barclay Cup against city teams. Hadn't been done since 1994. Had not been done since 1994, 24 years at the time. How can a little small community compete with massive big powerhouse teams and win a Barclay Cup? Well, one of the things I did to tilt the ice in our favor was I went from a should, good morning, to a must. And it took me 4 years of losing to make that brass balls decision. I finally said, you know what? I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of ending my season with a loss. I want to lift that Barclay Cup when my mom and dad are still here with us. I want to win the last game of the year. And the only way we can do it and give ourselves a stacked deck, an absolute unfair advantage, is to take away the phones and gadgets. We did that. We lifted the cup 7-8 months later. Incredible, incredible story, but the truth about focus and concentration. And it's interesting because when our guys used to come to practice, it was an amazing, amazing experiment where our players would come to practice at 6 o'clock at night. So they would arrive at the arena at 6 p.m. And most of our athletes, not all of our athletes, would arrive, and I would have, good morning, I would have the opportunity to speak with them for a few minutes or a few seconds when they walk by my office. And to a man, most of them looked fatigued, tired, poor body language. They look like they hadn't eaten. They look like they hadn't slept well. They look like they hadn't hydrated. They just look beat. At 6 p.m. at night, 17-year-old, 18-year-old, 20-year-old, they look beat. Whether they were at school, whether they were at college, whether they're at university, whether they were at work, they walked into that arena every practice and most of them looked beat. They looked, like my grandmother used to say, like somebody had pulled them through a knothole. So the experiment that was brought to my attention was by our trainer when she said to me, she goes, Michael, she says, you control the environment like nobody else. When these young men arrive at 6 o'clock, she says, they don't want to practice, they don't want to work, they're tired, they're fatigued, they're frazzled, they're distracted, they're worn out. She says, I watch these young men literally transform every practice over 3 hours. She said they get to the rink at 5:30, 6 o'clock. What do you have waiting for them? Bottles of water, mandatory. They start hydrating. She says, what do you have for them? You have healthy protein foods, fruits, bananas, vegetables. She said, you have high energy foods. What else do you have? You have games like ping pong, games like that they can play. And she said, and the number one thing, how you're bringing these men back to life every practice, she says, zero technology, no television, no cell phones, no iPads. She says, the only thing I've ever seen you do with them is video on the 16-foot screen. But she said, that's instruction, that's the opposite. And she said, she goes, Michael, have you noticed when these young men come into the rink at 6 p.m., and they leave 3 or 4 hours later after practice? She said, have you noticed the difference in their physiology, their body language, the smile on their face, the look in their eyes, their language, their attitude. And I said, now that you brought it up, I said, Tristan, I really do. I said, it's like we're bringing them back to life. She said, bingo, exactly. She said, these young kids, she says, I have a son at this age, is on their phone from the time their eyes open at 6 a.m. They're scrolling, off to school, scrolling, depressed, anxious, stressed, worried, scrolling, fake news, bullying, anti-social media, politics, entertainment, virtue signaling, celebrities, scrolling, comparing themselves to other people, toxic environments, not running their own race, scrolling, manufactured mental illness, Michael, for 12 hours from 6 a.m. till they arrive at the hockey rink. That's 12 hours of manufactured mental illness. She said, no wonder they look like they were pulled through a knothole. What do? We bring back the water, the fresh air, the sunshine, and 2 solid hours of exercise. Stretching, breathing, extreme hard work on the ice for 2 hours. And all of a sudden, I don't care how cold it was, we're out there walking, we're out there stretching, we're kicking the soccer ball around. We're doing all the things that other teams aren't doing. And we're doing it with 100% mental focus. She says it's no wonder when they leave the rink at 9 p.m., 10 p.m., that they look like they just woke up fresh and ready. And she said that's the power of controlling the environment, especially taking away the phones and gadgets. She says our athletes come back to life. Our players have a level of focus and concentration that other teams can't compete with. We've loaded the deck. We've stacked the deck. We've given ourselves an unfair advantage with a brass balls decision. And consequently, she said all season, Tristan said, this is our year, Michael. Nobody's going to stop this machine. Nobody is going to stop this machine. We have too many champions, too many leaders, too many guys that don't have a plan B. She says we have guys, coaches, trainers, scouts. Everybody on this club this year is all in. They've burned the ships and they're going to take the island. And it's interesting, I said to Tristan, I said, why are you so certain that we're going to win this year when we've pulled up short for 4 consecutive seasons? She goes, Michael, she said, good morning. She said, you have filled our locker room and our culture with young men who don't have a plan B. She said, a man or a woman with no plan B will destroy any man or woman with a safety net or a plan B. As much as it's great to plan ahead and we want our children to have options and safety nets, just remember the person who burns the boat. If you burn the ships, the only way to take an island is to burn the ships. In fact, you can't win the battle. You can't win that ultimate battle unless you have that mentality of burning the ships and taking the island. Plan Bs are for chumps. Plan Bs are for Joe Average. I'll never forget my athletic trainer saying, you filled this room with champions. You filled this room with guys that cannot live with losing. They cannot live with losing. You didn't fill this room just with winners. She said, you have filled this locker room with young men that cannot live with losing. And she said, they have no plan B. They've never envisioned anything but putting a championship ring on their finger. And now that you have them mentally focused and physically dialed in, she said, it's just a matter of time until we win our final game of the season. Amazing, amazing. The difference between winning and losing is what we tolerate. The difference between champions, good morning. the difference between champions and chumps, the difference between badasses and bootlickers, the difference between kings and poodles is our standards. Your life is what you tolerate. Every area of your life is what you tolerate. If you're dissatisfied with any area of your life, any area of your business, raise your standards and stop tolerating. Stop tolerating the BS in that area of your life. Hold yourself to a higher standard. Move from a should to a must. Well, I should write Thanksgiving letters to my son and daughter. I should invite my daughter and son to go to the movies with me. I should do something with my children once or twice a week. I should date my queen. I should read each day. I should market my business every day. I should get out there and walk in the morning. I should start leaving my cell phone at home on date nights. I should leave my cell phone alone until 10 in the morning. Should. Needs to be turned into a must. If you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, raise your standards. Raise your standards and stop tolerating losing. Be sick to your stomach, use that as fuel. Every chump wants to win. The homeless guy on the corner begging for change wants to win. Sure, I'd love to win. Sure, I'd love to be successful. Sure, I'd love to be wealthy. Sure, I'd love to make money. But he can live with losing, and that's why he loses. The guy who's broke would love to be rich. Your broke-ass friend would love to be rich. But you know what? He can live with being broke. He can live with being broke. If some fat-ass guy who's 75 pounds overweight, and well, Michael, it's really hard after dinner, you know, I find it difficult to not feed my face with chips and pretzels and beer and all this other stuff. It's not that he doesn't want to be thin and healthy. It's not that he doesn't want to get in the best shape of his life. It's that he can fucking well live with being fat and unhealthy. I didn't win a Barclay Cup until I could not live with losing any longer. That's when I scrapped my plan B and my plan C, when I stopped talking about next year, we finally were able to put a championship ring on our finger. When the leader, myself, stopped tolerating losing, stopped tolerating losing habits and behaviors and thinking and mindset and practice habits, all of a sudden we win a championship. And like I said, it wasn't like we earned a championship. It wasn't like we deserved a Barclay Cup. It wasn't like I deserved to 5X my insurance company. It wasn't like I deserved to be the #1 agent in the country for 7 straight years. It wasn't like I earned being the #1 barbershop for 6 consecutive years. It's not, good morning. It's not like I earned, being #1 in that area. It's just that I wasn't willing to tolerate anything else. I wasn't willing to tolerate losing in any of those companies. And I had no plan B but being #1 in every single one of them. I had no plan B. I had burned the ships and I was going to take the island, and I burned the ships and I did take the island. And the day I did it is the day I stopped tolerating and increased my standards from shoulds to musts. That's it. The difference between every man and woman is their standards. Not opportunities, not luck, not anything like that. It's your standards. The difference between any man and woman, between a champion and a chump, between a winner and a loser, between a badass and a bootlicker is their standards. Show me your life and I'll tell you your standards. Show me your bank account and I'll tell you your standards. Show me your physical body, your fitness, your body language. I'll tell you your standards. Show me your marketing. I'll tell you your standards. Tell me, your relationship. Tell me a little bit about your relationship with your wife and your children, and I'll tell you your standards. Just like a badass crystal ball. We are what we tolerate. We are not our highest dreams and aspirations. We are our lowest standards. We are our lowest standards. We need to constantly be up-leveling, pushing. Good is the enemy of great. Good is the enemy of great. Pushing, demanding, pushing, demanding, tolerating less and expecting more, and moving mentally from should to must. That's it. If you're not on my fax number, on my private, confidential, off-the-grid fax list, reply to this email or email Leanne. What the hell is my private fax list? My private fax list is some of my very best marketing and advertising and business advice off the grid. It's things I won't share in a video. It's things I won't share online. It's it's insider secrets I will not share in an email because of all the big tech problems. So my fax list, my confidential fax list, I usually send a fax about once a week. If you're on my list, you'll get some of my very best marketing, promotions, advertising ideas, time management, help wanted, how to hire, all this stuff, mental toughness training, and it's for free. All you have to do is reply to this email with your fax number, or Leanne, her email's below, send her your fax number. Well, Michael, I don't have a fax machine, but I want to receive your confidential off-the-grid faxes for free. No problem. There's a link below. It's the software. It's called MFax. I have no idea why. It's an inexpensive software that allows you, a guy without a fax machine, to receive faxes by your email. You get the fax in your email. So it's the next best thing. The best thing is to buy a fax machine. Second best thing is to get the MFax software below. It's inexpensive, and that way you can receive my weekly fax in your email box and print it off if you want. But regardless, it's my off-the-grid best stuff. My best marketing, my best advertising, my best strategies, mental toughness training, you name it. And it's 95% hard content. I'll pitch my book in there, I'll pitch my newsletter, I'll pitch my mastermind, but it's 95% hard content that can really help you transform your life and help you start living life and doing business on your own terms. Send me your fax number, reply to this email, or email your fax to Leanne at badassmillionaire.com. If you don't have a fax, buy that cheap software below, MFax, and get a fax number and send it to me or send it to Leanne, and I'll put you on the list. I have a fax coming up this Friday that'll blow your mind. It'll blow your mind, but you're going to miss out if you don't have a fax number. I don't resend faxes. These are off the grid. I'm a tech dinosaur on purpose. I'm not gonna share my most valuable secrets in a video. I'm not gonna share my best marketing and sales ideas in an email. I'm not gonna put that out on the interwebs. I'm not gonna put that out on the World Wide Web. I'm not gonna put that out there for big tech to decide. My best stuff is in my print, my newsletter. I share my best stuff with my newsletter brothers. Badassletter.com, by the way, badassletter.com. I share my best stuff in my weekly paper and ink telegrams. I actually mail a telegram to my Diamond members. You can up level to Diamond by emailing Leanne as well, Leanne at badassmillionaire.com. I share my best stuff by sending it and faxing it and mailing it to my champions and my world building mastermind members. So if you want access to my really strong stuff, my best stuff, my off the grid stuff, get on my fax list. Get on my confidential fax list. It's free. It's free. All you have to do is make sure you reply to this email, or Leanne, send Leanne an email with your new fax number. Get that fax software. One fax pays for that software. That's it. Kick ass and take names. You are your lowest standards, and the difference between a champion and a chump, a badass and a bootlicker, or a pretender and a contender is what you tolerate. So make sure there's no area of your life that you're tolerating anything that isn't outstanding and elite. Nothing in your world that isn't outstanding and elite doesn't get curated, swift sword, or cut out today. 2 words that changed my life, 2 words that'll change your life. Be relentless.